Hello, everybody. It is Dr. Stuart A. Swerdlow
and Janet Diane Moria Swerdlow
for Expansions.com, and this is our news podcast for middle of April 2018. And even though it's April, it's pretty freaking cold outside, and snow tomorrow, and tomorrow night, and the next day, and so on.
That's Michigan.
Yeah, the never-ending winter.
I should say it's global warming.
Well, the joke in Michigan is we have two seasons, winter and winter light.
It's close.
So we're coming into winter light, which will last until September, and then it'll be winter again. It's a lot of fun. You should come and experience it. Anyway, to serious, and that's actually
that's what I was going to say.
No pun intended, news, because it's about Syria, which is serious. And unfortunately, this was not going to be my news story today, but it happened last night, so it has to be my news story. And I will make a quote now from what the news is calling a delighted Trump. Or I shall call him just DT. And he said, well, I won't imitate him, but I'll just say, a perfectly executed strike last night. And thanks to the wisdom and fine military of France and the UK. That's why they won both wars, France and when the Germans invaded them, because they had a fine military with wisdom. And he says the Allies could not have have a better result. Well, they could if they didn't attack. That would have been a better result. And he said that he's proud of our, quote, great military that will be, not it is now, but it will be the finest the country has ever had. Maybe because he thinks he took all the gay people out of it. But
no,
also,
they didn't take them out. I just said they can't stand
they just can't do
or,
anything. Yeah. And he said that there were precision strikes on the Assad regime. Now, it's interesting, when they don't like a country, they call it a regime. Instead of a government or a country, they call it a regime.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Strikes are in retaliation for poison gas attack that killed up to 75 people on April 7th. Now, the thing is, depending on what news you read, I've seen as low as 43, as much as 80 minimum. Now, this one is saying 75. That means they don't have a full story. It's not a real story. But I'll continue with this. Combined operations with France and the UK will continue until Assad stops using chemical weapons. But the UK and others said this was just a one-time only thing. So that's not confirming what. Now, here's one of my favorite parts. He warned Russia and Iran about their association with Assad, saying they'll be, quote, judged by the friends they keep, unquote, unquote. Shall I mention Stormy and other of his former friends? British Prime Minister Theresa May, she described the coalition assault as limited and targeted. And French President Emmanuel Macron. Now, here's my another favorite part. Macron said there was a red line set by France in May of 2017 that had been crossed. And so I will say to him, how about the red line between an adult woman and a teenager? Was that crossed many years ago?
Oh, red is sexual color.
Yeah. Now, here's the other thing. Syrian state-run TV said 3 civilians had been wounded on the attack. Only 3 civilians were wounded. And we fired 100 missiles. Something's wrong with that story, too. According to the news, a large part of the Syrian regime, chemical arsenal was destroyed during the coordinated strikes by America, UK, and France on facilities known to be used in the production of deadly weapons. However, did you see the videos in it? The buildings looked like they were demolished a long time ago, like bulldozed, because nothing around them was damaged. There's like laying pieces of cement, no burn marks, no water flying out, no flames from gas. Empty buildings that were just laying there. Now, here's the part. The assault by the United States consisted of more than 100 missiles. So 100 missiles. Oh, look what I'm doing. I'm doing a Trump.
I see that.
Okay, 100 missiles more, and supposedly they all hit their targets perfectly. No straying to hit civilians. But like 100 missiles, you'd think some of them would go off target, and that's not even counting with the French and the UK. I'll call the French probably you were drinking red wine and eating gin, and then they want. So who knows where their missiles wound up? But Russia's ambassador to the United States warned the White House that the military strikes against its ally will not be left without consequences. And he continued, insulting the president of Russia is unacceptable and inadmissible. And he said, and this is the big part. Mm-hmm. He says the United States is the possessor of the biggest arsenal of chemical weapons and has no moral right to blame other countries. That's the truth. Alexander Sharon, deputy head of the State Duma, Defense Committee, which is the Russian government, said Trump can be called Adolf Hitler #2 in our time. And he said, and this is interesting about the dates, because you see he even chose the time that Hitler attacked the Soviet Union to attack. So that's a kind of a smack in the face, isn't it?
Well, it's a ritual over a ritual.
So here's a little bit of my political commentary, regardless of other things. Why was this done now? Trump, Theresa May, Macron, all have serious public relations issues at home. No one likes Theresa May in Britain. Trump is having a lot of trouble, and Macron, well, he's like a little boy with an old mommy that's taking care of him. And so they have these issues at home, and they needed a boost to their public opinion of themselves in their own country. Where was Germany? Where was Italy? Where was Canada? Australia? All the allies of the United States and NATO and so on. And so these are just a diversion from their own private issues. And here comes some interesting news. Russia claimed its own military experts found no evidence of poisonous substances at the site of Assad's chemical attack, and insists that this was faked by rescue volunteers. The Kremlin military said it had drawn the conclusion after taking samples from the rebel-held Duma city where that supposedly 43 were killed by toxic gas on Saturday. Now, the US and UK said 75 were killed. Syrian government said at least 80 were killed. The Russians said 43. Well, it's a big difference between 43 and 80. That's twice. Mm-hmm. So what's going on here?
Well, you want to know something? Mm-hmm. 4 plus 3 is a 7, and 8 is plus 8 is a 13.
No, 7 and 8 is 15.
Oh, 15, you're right. Okay,
that's why you are not a math teacher.
Yeah, well, I do have math things in here, but you're correct on it.
Okay. The Russian army accused the White Helmets, I had not heard of them before, a civil defense organization of staging the chemical outrage. And they said, acting purely as a terrorist organization, the odious White Helmets once again staged for the cameras a chemical attack on the civilians of Duma. This was Lieutenant General Viktor Poznikher, he said at briefing in Moscow. He said the doctors at the local hospital told Russian officers that they had not treated any victims of such an attack. And the Kremlin's foreign ministry suggested the U.S. plan to attack Syria was a pretext to destroy evidence of alleged chemical attack that they staged for their own provocation to justify Western intervention. I think that's a little bit more plausible. Because Russia has an S-400 system, which is designed to destroy aircraft and cruise and ballistic missiles at medium range, and also against ground attacks. But the thing is, interestingly, a few days before, the Russian Navy left Syria. So that means they knew it was going to come, and the Russians didn't, and must have told the Syrians, because there was nobody in the buildings.
Well, like I always
100 plus missiles, and 3 civilians were injured? You kidding me?
But as I always say, everything is staged. There's a reason.
Mm-hmm. Russia claims that the attack, a chemical attack in Syria, was staged by the White Helmets, a U.S.-funded NGO lauded by mainstream media for the humanitarian work, but they are suspected of performing less than humanitarian deeds behind the curtain. Speaking with Euronews, Russia's ambassador to the EU, Vladimir Chizov, said Russian military specialists have visited the region, walked on the streets, entered the houses, talked to local doctors, and visited the only functioning hospital in Duma, including its basement, where reportedly the mountains of corpses pile up. There was not a single corpse and not a single person who came in for treatment after the attack. But we've seen them on the video, responds the Euronews correspondent. And Chizov responds, there was no chemical attack in Duma, pure and simple. We've seen another staged event. There are personnel specifically trained, and you can guess by whom, amongst the so-called White Helmets, who are already caught in the act with staged videos. And it goes on to say that these rumors were immediately taken out by those who were financed by the attack by Western capitalists and are under the cloak of health professionals. Incidentally, the White Helmets put on the internet a video which showed preparations for staging a so-called victim of an alleged attack perpetrated by the Syrian army. So they even put on the internet how they staged it anyway. Videos posted online by the White Helmets showed victims, including toddlers in diapers, breathing through oxygen masks at makeshift hospitals. But I showed you the pictures. They have little children. They look fine. They're in diapers. It's like they're asleep and someone's putting a mask on their face. And they look pretty normal. There's nothing wrong with their skin is normal. Their faces, no damage, no cuts, nothing. Just they put a mask on them and they were in attack. So it really is quite pathetic what's going on out there. And here's a commentary by me, my opinion. Russia needs the Syrian ports. That's why they're supporting Syria. And they also need the Iranian oil reserves because even though Russia is the greatest oil producer in the world, they still need oil fields in Iran. Israel supports the Syrian rebels but attacks the Palestinians. And Turkey supports the rebels but attacks the Kurds. And Iran should not be in Syria. So it's really a big, gigantic mess. Anyway, let me change the topic now that I've gone through my rant. Don't believe what you see in Syria. It's a small country. Over 40% of the population has left. There is no reason that a civil war in such a little country with a small population should take 7 years. This is just a staged event on all sides. I'll just tell you that. Researchers, now talk about global warming, right? About carbon dioxide and blah, blah, blah. Well, according to the Journal of Science, they determined that the idea that the only source of nitrogen for plant life came from air is wrong. There are vast storehouses in the planet's bedrock that plants also feed on. What this means is there's a vastly larger supply of nitrogen than previously believed. And these vast previously unknown nitrogen stores would then have an enormous impact on global warming predictions. According to this, if there is more nitrogen than expected, then the constraints on plant growth and a high carbon dioxide world may not be as great as we think. In other words, the more nitrogen available, plant life might be able to absorb more carbon dioxide than climate scientists have been estimating, which means the planet won't warm. Where have you heard that before? In addition, they failed to predict decade-long pause in global temperatures, these scientists, nor have various calamities that were supposed to have occurred by now materialized. There are no cities underwater. The ocean levels have dropped, not risen.
Let's say we've talked about islands that have risen in the sea.
Exactly. The ocean levels have actually dropped. And the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, has been conducting highly suspicious temperature data manipulation. The changes in the temperature data constantly make the past seem cooler, which in turn makes the present seem warmer.
Which you talked about last week.
But this creates an illusion of ever-rising temperatures to match their fake predictions. And it says here, which is very true, science is not supposed to have a politically predetermined outcome pushed by ideology and politics. This new nitrogen study is only one example of the consensus of science being overturned. So people prove again, scientifically now, that there's no global warming. Now, to the Pacific. Are massive tremors on the way?
I keep saying they are.
The UN tweeted that the Pacific Ring of Fire was active. And interestingly, just in this past week, we have had earthquakes in California, Alaska, Nebraska, and Texas. And it's not because I was there. Yellowstone Eruptions. By the way, there have never been so many earthquakes in Nebraska in 1 week ever. And you don't think of Nebraska.
Was there 2 instead of 1?
There were 3. Actually 4. Which maybe they had that in 20 years, and that's been in 1 week. Anyway, Yellowstone eruptions seem to occur every 600 to 700,000 years. You might remember some of them at your age.
Maybe.
And now there's a concern that Yellowstone is overdue. I've told you this before. But scientists now estimate that Yellowstone is one of the most unpredictable and dangerous threats faced by humanity. Other than Mr. Trump, of course. And they said that studying minerals from Yellowstone's last eruptions suggested the volcano could blow a lot faster than expected. For example, within 24 hours, there were 89 small quakes that hit near the Old Faithful geyser. And this swarm seems to indicate an intrusion of magma inside the caldera of the park. Now, on April 11th, of this year, there were 25 earthquakes. 24 hours later, there were 89 more. That's not usual. And again, it goes on to state about the 4 earthquakes in central Nebraska on April 9th and 10th. And that's not normal to see so many, they said, in Nebraska in a week. Just a little bit further south, there's been a volcanic alert for Popocatépetl. You know where Popocatépetl is?
Yes, dear, you talk about that a lot.
Yes. It's in central Mexico. It's near Mexico City. And there's a constant emission of material that presents a danger, and they tell people to get away. Now in Hawaii, this is interesting, and I have the link that people can listen to the sound. There's a sound that's described as being from either a tidal wave, methane explosion, underground earthquakes, like where else would an earthquake be, and shifting sand dunes. But the USGS says it's possible the noises originate from above. From where? So, something strange going on in Hawaii. Of course, there are those religious people that say it's a trumpet blast indicating the return of Jesus. And of course, why wouldn't he come to Hawaii first?
Well, and Trump just made a blast, according to him.
Yeah. Now, I always wanted to say this term, a gaggle of geese. Did you ever hear of a gaggle of geese?
Yes.
Yeah. They were found dead in a parking lot in Idaho Falls, 51 of them, which were called a freak accident. They were all clumped together, soaking wet, as golf ball-sized hail rained down on them during a thunderstorm last week. And according to the Department of Fish and Game, I didn't even know there was such a thing.
Yes, in the agricultural area, we do know that.
Yes. Well, you're so smart, because you know about such things. Anyway,
Yes.
They said it's most likely lightning caused them to fall from the sky. And when they opened them up, their lungs were exploded.
That's very odd.
Now, here's a question. Birds don't fly into thunderstorms, do they? They have this thing in their head that directs them away from those things. So that doesn't make sense. Plus, if they were struck by lightning, wouldn't they be defeathered and burned?
I don't know.
I would think so. You've seen people that are hit by lightning, they lose their hair, their eyebrow, everything, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is a cover story for a microwave pulse that caused them to die all in one little cluster clump. Why aren't the other birds around them dead? Only that one little cluster. And according to the Wildlife Department person who's worked for many years, he said, I've never seen a case like this. And that's because it's not true. And just a quick update on killer robots. I know you did that report before on killer robots. They said that if the UN doesn't do something about a treaty limiting their development, that within 1 year they could be on battlefields. And this is what I found interesting of the story, because according to Elon Musk, this was summoning the demon.
Yeah, we've talked about that several times. Whenever we hear that word demon, we know it's a trigger.
And
out
machines could be used as machines could use humans as pets.
Yeah.
Well, my animals have used me as a pet. And of course, they said intelligent robots could make unpredictable, out-of-character decisions during critical moments, which could put people in danger. Yes. And some people believe that AI will wipe out humans completely. I don't believe that. But it should be regulated.
Well, who's going to regulate it? That's like having the fox watch the hen house. Who's going to regulate
That's
them?
what I always say. But
Who's going to regulate
throwing
them?
that out there.
No.
Now, weather. Because I mentioned the weather in the beginning. And according to this report, that there could be weather chaos across Europe, US, and Africa like there isn't right now. And it said that now here's the thing. The circulation of the Atlantic Ocean is at its weakest point in 1,600 years.
And they know that how?
Well, because they said the system continues to weaken and disrupt weather patterns and cause rapidly increasing sea levels on the East Coast, which actually the opposite is happening because islands are appearing off the coast of North Carolina. Mm-hmm. So this is the result, people, as I told you a long time ago, of the BP oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico, which has destroyed the Gulf Stream. And in this report, it says there's something wrong with the Gulf Stream. Yeah, it doesn't exist anymore. And they said the last time that happened, there was an ice age. Where'd you hear that before? I guess they're trying to say something true because people are noticing it's freaking cold outside.
Well, people are realizing that it's something
in
that's
spring.
wrong. Even though they keep having the same party line out there, but they're putting this out there to shift your thinking just a bit.
And I will just say that the ice age is coming, and this was confirmed to me just a week ago by a NASA plasma physicist who we spoke to yesterday on the phone. Go on.
Okay, now it's my turn?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, time's up. Back to me.
So, what I want to talk to you about a little bit is I'm continuing showing you the New World religion trends. Mm-hmm. And amongst that is, I'm going to refer to, first of all, ex-President Obama. X. Because, as you know, this Me Too campaign started with all these women accusing people of doing things from 40 years ago, and then we have Stormy Daniels accusing Trump of things from so many years ago. Well, now we have a woman who claims that Obama was a cocaine-using gay hustler. Apparently, the woman whose name is Mia Marie Pope, which sounds like a made-up name. Mia Marie Pope told right-wing preacher James David Manning that she believes that Obama was not only active within the gay community, but also a heavy cocaine user during his years in Hawaii.
And how does she know this?
Because she went to high school with him. She said he always portrayed himself as a foreign student. Girls were never anything he was interested in. He would get with these older white gay men, and this is how he just pretty much had the impression that that's how he was procuring his cocaine. And then, of course, in May, Dave Dobenmeyer implied that Obama was openly gay, or better yet, openly bisexual, in a News with Views broadcast. And in fall of 2012, gossip columnist Jerome Corsi alleged that the president had been actively involved in Chicago's gay bar and bathhouse scene.
I've heard that before.
And of course, we remember what Joan Rivers said shortly before she died.
She was murdered.
Yes. Do you remember what she said?
She said, Michelle Obama's a tranny and everybody knows it.
And we already have a gay president. That's what she said. So anyway, I'm just bringing this up because this is all this past. And when we get into New World religion, they're going to be going into ancestor type of worship. So this is going to continue to go. Now, speaking again of President Trump, you might have heard about James Comey.
Oh, yes.
Who's the former FBI director who Trump fired.
Yes.
Now, he has a new book out, and he's been giving some stories about that.
I wonder why.
He said he was stunned by his interactions with Trump and described a January 27 meeting with the then incoming president as really weird. Now, see, again, this is New World Religion things, and an almost out-of-body experience, or a drug-induced thing, because people often describe these feelings when they're on hallucinogenics.
You have trouble with words today.
They are. My tongue has died. Hallucinogenics. Mm-hmm. Anyway, they describe it as a spiritual experience. So now he's describing his talk with the president as out-of-body experience. He's floating above himself, looking down, saying to himself, "You're sitting here briefing the incoming president of the U.S. about prostitutes in Moscow." Then he claims that he briefed Trump on the so-called P-tape allegations.
That pisses me off.
Contained in an unverified dossier from former British spy Christopher Steele. He goes on to say, "I started to tell him about the allegation was that he had been involved with prostitutes in a hotel in Moscow in 2013.
So Comey was telling this to Trump.
No, yes, Comey was telling this to Trump, and he was relating this story in an interview, and he has this in his book.
Right.
Okay. During the visit for the Miss Universe pageant, and that the Russians had filmed the episode, and he interrupted very defensively and started talking about it, like, do I look like a guy who needs hookers?
Well, who else would sleep with you?
He says, I honestly never thought these words would come out of my mouth, but I don't know whether the current president of the United States was with prostitutes peeing on each other in Moscow in 2013. I don't know. Now, the interesting thing is first of all, when we think about FBI in that level, they do not allow these people just to come out and say whatever they know. So again, this has to be part of a script.
Of course.
So therefore, we just have to watch the show and figure out what in the world it means for you personally.
Remember I told you that there's an effort underway to remove Trump from office, and this is part of it.
It's also part of New World Religion, where they're also teaching people and imprinting you to poo and pee on each other.
No.
We've
Keep
talked
me out
about
of that
that
religion.
before. So Sean Hannity, who had an interview, was talking about, now they're calling it the infamous PP tape.
Oh my goodness.
They said that this led to a unique defense of the president from Fox News host Jesse Waters. It all started with a hypothetical question for commentator Jessica Tarlov, who was also a guest on the show. So after they discussed it, then Tarlov says, this is the only show that I've ever been able to talk about the PP tape on, so that makes me really happy. So Waters interjects and says, and it's not true, because if someone pees in the bed, like, where are you going to sleep? Where are you going to sleep?
That's true.
And Tarlov said, I don't think he's having a sleepover with them. And so Waters persisted and said, it's obviously not true. It doesn't make any sense. And then Tarlov says, I think it's transactional. I don't think it's a cuddle fest. So they're getting this in your mind, the out-of-body, the out-of-body experiences, the peeing stuff. All this. There are a lot of people who do this during sexual activity, which is, according to this, they call it golden shower show.
Yeah, but that's not, you don't pee in the bed, right?
I don't know. I don't know anything about this.
Well, you seem to know a lot about those things.
I'm reporting what I read in my research.
Okay.
So if they're going to have sex with each other, and they're billionaires, and they ruin the mattress, I don't think anybody really cares.
Well, the hotel would care.
No, they're just going to give them a bill for a few $1,000s, and those kind of people don't care.
Especially in Russia.
They don't care. I'm just telling you, they don't care. And they also said that, again, back to Obama, that this was the presidential suite where Obama had stayed as well. So they're linking him in just by association.
I see.
And then, let's see. There was a headline in one of the news stories. I have this in my notes, but I don't have that apparently in this writing. But now they're calling Trump P-brain.
That was on the New York newspaper.
Was that what it was? And then Comey goes on to say that Trump denied the incident, but was worried about what Melania Trump would think about it. Mm-hmm. Then Stephen Colbert went to Moscow, rented out the same suite because he wanted to see it and film a show there.
I wouldn't want to sleep in that bed.
Well, I'm sure it's been changed. If it happened,
It's Moscow.
The point is they don't even know if it happened. And then Trump responds to the allegations. Now, this was very interesting as well. And this is why, again, I tell you it's a show. First of all, he calls him untruthful slimeball. Then what does he call him?
That's really professional.
A proven leaker and liar. Now, take a leak is what oftentimes men will say instead I have to use the bathroom. Now anymore, they'll just say pee, which, you know, in my day and age, it was considered very low level. Now it's like acceptable. You came from. They would say things like, which to me was a little bit more of a slang, I have to go take a leak. Okay, so these call me a leaker and a liar. And anyway, I just thought that was very interesting. And then on top of all of this, Trevor Noah says that Trump has a love child.
I heard about that.
And that the National Enquirer's publishing company paid off a doorman in Trump Tower to keep quiet about a child that Trump supposedly fathered with a housekeeper.
Why would you have to pay the doorman when, like, a lot of people would have known about it?
I'm just telling you what they said. And apparently this was verified by a lot of their workers, but the New Yorker said there's no evidence of it. The Trump organization denies it. It's just more things to keep people, you know, have something in their head, you know, that's really intelligent, like pea-brain president and things like this. That
I would think that he'd be proud to have that kind of child because he makes him look, you know, so manly and
yeah, but he wants it with people like Melania, not with, you know, what he would call a low level.
Schwarzenegger had one, and you know,
they all have them. It's just that, you know, it depends what they want to tell you and not tell you. Now, also in Trump Tower, there was also a blaze where the victim was an art dealer who was friends with Andy Warhol. It was on the 50th floor.
Right.
Apparently, this man, his name was Todd.
Which means death in German.
Brosner, age 67, so 6 plus 7, there's
13.
your 13. That he was a prominent art dealer. He owed Trump $2.5 million, and apparently...
got trouble paying it.
On the 50th floor, the fire broke out, and guess what? He was the only one who was dead.
How did he die? That's the question.
They don't exactly
fire breaks out, you just lay down and inhale smoke, you don't run out. Maybe, it was the only apartment on fire.
Maybe he was dead first.
Yeah, maybe. That's
and
the
then
thing.
The insurance can just go in there and you know, pay for all the damages.
And then Trump used to call him the crazy Jew.
So for whatever reason, this man's dead. The only person of this Trump Tower
and the only apartment that was damaged.
Yes. And then moving along to gun control, very popular topic here in the U.S. at the time. And of course, I had reported on the march in Washington, D.C., March for Our Lives, or the so-called students who somehow got the money to all go to Washington, D.C., 100,000 of them or something, in Colorado. Colorado students held a Second Amendment rally in response to that movement. And apparently, one of the organizers said that she participated in the student-led movement because she doesn't believe that guns are the problem. I think it's the people. Yeah. And that people are trying to blame an inanimate object for something that's not them.
I mean, this book, you can kill someone with this book. Does that mean it's dangerous?
No, so my point is at least, you know, there are some youth that are saying we're not going to be mind controlled by these other people who are trying to mind control us. And then on with divide and conquer, I've been telling you about the racism issue that, of course, is getting, you know, increasingly, I'm going to say, worse here in the U.S. This one has to do with Oprah Winfrey.
Oh, no.
Apparently she's reporting now for 60 Minutes. So she took Oprah Winfrey took the 60-minute cameras and people for their interview into a new memorial dedicated to the thousands of victims of lynchings that took place over a 70-year period following the Civil War. Now, this is 60 Minutes, 70-year period. So 6 plus 7, there's your 13. It has 805 steel markers. 8 plus 5 is 13, right? Then it's going to be aired on April 8th at 7 p.m., 8 and 7. No, why do I keep thinking 8 and 7?
I don't know what's in your head.
No, it's a 13. I mean, a 15. I don't know why that's coming up in my head all the time. Anyway, the memorial takes up 6 acres and the heart of Montgomery, Alabama, so that's a pretty good size.
Right.
And apparently it was the scene of 361 documented lynchings in the state of Alabama.
Oh, Alabama's known for that.
So then apparently they're calling this memorial, and this is about lynchings, but they're calling it the National Memorial for Peace and Justice. Doesn't sound like a peaceful thing to me.
Nope.
And it goes on to talk about that this person who led the way to create the money, Brian Stevenson, it says that he says the murderous acts were a way for whites to maintain political control over African Americans who were supposed to get the right to vote after the Civil War. But I will tell you that these things happen to all kinds of people all over the world. You know, I was thinking of the injustices that were done to the Waldensians. They were also burned alive, they were tortured, they were strung up, they were put on pikes through the forest. And this was done white people to white people, Catholics and their people against the Waldensian people. And this has happened throughout history. You know, Vikings did it to their captors. One did it to another.
And the black African tribes did it to each other.
Exactly.
And the Indians in the U.S. did it to each other.
Exactly. So it's not, to me, this is divide and conquer. This is putting something in your face you can't ignore. And again, it's going to make white people feel bad that they did something to blacks. And this
There's a reverse discrimination going on.
This has to do with, again, you have to go back and feel bad for what your ancestors did. And this has, again, it's another vein leading to New World religion. In fact, it says that teams collected jars filled with soil from the many places where lynching took place and then put them here in this memorial. Now, to me, I'm sorry, that's moving one frequency to another.
Anymore.
But it's still very ritualistic.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, the transgender
Again?
agenda, well, it's not going to go away, you know. There's now, on April 23rd here in the U.S., planned a sex ed plan sit-out. It says that apparently the parents are finally saying we have had enough, and they're protesting what they're calling a pornographic sex ed curriculum being taught under the guise of anti-bullying, which I happen to agree with.
So what are they protesting?
They're protesting the sex ed curriculum, and if you'll listen, I will tell you what it's about.
Oh, sorry.
The protest was launched in the beginning by a few American mothers, but as their coordination grew, then apparently Australia and Canada are also joining in because tax dollars are going to pay for curriculums and resources that teach things such as the mechanics of anal and oral sex. This is for little kids, kindergarten on up.
That's not right for anybody, actually.
How to masturbate. Well,
what?
This is the sex ed curriculum these days.
Well, they teach them how to breathe.
To question their gender. And all these are included under sex education curricula. And the same thing with, because if you bully somebody who's transgendering, then that's a problem.
They bully everybody.
But I'm just telling you that they're putting this under sex education and anti-bullying stuff. And so the rights of the parents are being taken away because the parents can't say anything about this, because then they can go to jail. So in California, apparently at the end of the last school year, there was a teacher there who read 2 children's books to her kindergarten class. One was called I Am Jazz, and the other's called A Red Crayon, and it's aimed at teaching transgenderism to kindergartners. Okay?
That's just not right.
So the parents protested, but according to the law, lessons in gender identity do not fall under the umbrella of sex ed, so the opt-out and parental consent laws do not apply.
What? That doesn't make any sense.
So, and on top of that, this particular teacher, in her classroom, there was a 5-year-old child transitioning from a boy to a girl.
That should be illegal.
So, they had the boy dress as a boy and walk into the bathroom, and then walk out in girls' clothes with a new name, and then she told her class they now to call him her. And so this left the children
maybe her is offensive,
emotionally bothered and traumatized, because the little girls were thinking, if I go into that bathroom and I come out, am I going to come out a boy?
Those teachers should be put in prison forever.
So all these kinds of things are calling it the mainstreaming of self-determined gender identity. And what's happening, and I've been reading a lot of this stuff, and parents do not have the right to question it. They're taking children away from parents.
I know.
If these little kids say, I'm now a girl, or I'm this, or I'm that, they're taking them away from the parents.
I read a story, as an aside to that,
right,
about a couple, one mixed couple, white and American Indian, that had a child, and the native tribe got legal permission to take the child away because it wouldn't be raised as a...
I have seen those as well.
That's kidnapping.
Yeah, no, a lot of things are going on where
it's legal kidnapping.
Yes, and so there's a woman out there, Elizabeth, I don't think I wrote that down, Elizabeth Johnston is her name. She might have heard of her, called Activist Mommy. She's very much Christian and very conservative, but I agree with like almost 100% of everything she says, because they are trying to take the children away from us.
Yes.
And they're doing it.
And they are.
And they are doing it.
And the government allows it.
Well, because the government's the plan. The government's the plan, and that's why.
Really.
So
and Trump is criticizing Russia. That's really right.
Because that focuses you here instead of here at home. If I had children still in school, I would also take them out as part of this walkout thing on the 23rd, because what they are doing is wrong. They are kidnapping your children. And they are getting away with it, and they are doing it in the most bizarre way. You know, if your 5-year-old says that, you know, I'm not a girl anymore, I'm a boy, they can make these changes.
They don't even know what to eat for breakfast, let alone what gender they are.
Yeah, that's right. Anyway, a lot of this, there's a licensed marriage and family therapist named David Pickup who says that radical, I think this, yeah, well, this is another one. This is, sorry, I quoted the wrong person, but I didn't get the full name. So, but anyway, it's someone who's involved in stopping this. She said that radical activists have begun teaching students to question their gender, thus placing an increasing number of students at risk for suicide, since 40% of gender-confused individuals attempt to commit suicide. So anyway, there's a lot of, it's a really horrible mind control programming thing that's going on out there, and they're using it to get your children. So anyway, activistmommy.com. And like I said, very interesting things on her site. Whether you agree with 100% doesn't matter. Keep yourself informed. And back to pooping and peeing. I told you that that's going to be part of this New World religion. So we're going to move through this article a bit. But also, it's talking about how you're more microbe than human. So they're talking in this particular article that more than half your body is not even human, which is leading, as far as I'm concerned, where's our book, about the alien agenda, that you are of mixed genetics. But it's got to start you somewhere. So
we're like a pathogen?
Yep. According to this, if you count all the cells in your body, only 43% are human. The rest is now they're calling it a microbiome, which includes bacteria, viruses, fungi, single-celled, I don't know how you say that word, archaea?
Archaea, yeah.
The human genome, which is the full set of genetic instructions for a human being, is made up of 20,000 instructions called genes. But the microbiome is known as a second genome, and the figure comes out between 2 million and 20 million microbial genes.
So when you call someone you're just nothing but a virus, that's true.
So, according to this article, that more than half your body is not even human.
Well, I knew that anyway for myself.
And the microbiome is the most important, exciting thing in medicine today, and that diversity, that's what they're teaching everyone to be. Remember, diversity, because not only can you be a boy, a girl, or flu, but you could be an alien. So
or you could be a virus or a bacteria.
Yes.
You could be a transgender fluid bacteria.
You know, that may sound, like quote-unquote out of this world, but I believe it's where it's going.
Bathroom.
And how are they getting the information? Because they're studying poop samples.
Of course.
So these two men who are in the charge of this project, they spent a year, who paid them for this?
Studying
a year
poop, don't even sound
studying 548 of their poop samples. So
what?
We have poop and peeing again in the news.
Oh my God, I'm in the wrong job.
And I have also told you about, and we've talked about this, about all this anal sex stuff and the big bottoms now that are being plastered
big butts, and I cannot lie.
all over the internet, because this is where we get our astral attachments.
Astral attachments?
Yes, through anal sex. So there's and I don't know who she is, but they had her all over the news. Her name is Farah Adam. Do you know who that is?
I don't know.
But anyway, so apparently butt fillers, and I don't even like that word, but I still have to say it because that's what they call it.
What are you talking about?
Butt filler.
That could be two different things.
Yes. And maybe that's the implication here. So anyway, apparently there's something now called butt plumping.
Oh, that's new.
And so this woman named Farah Adams, I'm going to tell you, she's laying on a table in a thong, which to me used to be something you wore on your feet, but now it's a undergarment for, I guess, males and females.
Flip-flops.
Yeah. So anyway, so she was wearing this thong thing with her 9-year-old daughter in the background, named Sophia, which is interesting because that's also the name of the robot that has citizenship in Saudi Arabia.
Right, which is bizarre.
Right. This is the ex-teen mom, this Farah Abraham. So it shows her the video. She shows her face. The daughter's in the background, which she says is filming it, but she's filming it. And it shows the woman injecting her bottom with collagen, she's claiming.
Like into the skin?
Yeah. That's
how. That's called plumping?
That's called butt plumping.
Oh, so it makes it rounder?
Well, no, bigger. You've seen these women that have these bottoms.
Why does anyone want that? I don't understand that.
Well, and especially, but now what's interesting is she's saying it's a non-invasive, just like blood work or getting shots, because it is a shot. She says, our children are so curious, so I'm so happy Sophie is learning about aesthetics and health.
That's not health.
Or aesthetics.
That's bizarro. That's mental illness.
So as they said, she's probably going to come under criticism, but she's showing
Yeah,
this video all over the place. So imprint yourself, imprint your child that this is normal. What 9-year-old child is going to watch her mother do that? And of course they're going to assume that it's normal.
Why would you do that in front of any child?
Why would you do it?
I mean,
Why
that
would
woman
you do
needs
it?
to be in a mental health institution.
Well, it's obviously, again, it's imprinting people. And my last story is I wanted to tell you about a tarantula burger contest.
I saw that.
Bull City Burger and Brewery in Durham, North Carolina.
Of course, North Carolina.
Apparently, they began introducing what they call exotic food. To me, it's not exotic
That's not
food.
a food.
Which includes, they say elk and crickets.
Elk is okay. Cricket, not.
And it's not exotic because that's what people always used to eat. So it's not exotic. Chocolate-covered bugs. They started introducing this about 7 years ago, so they put out, I guess, some kind of a raffle. If you wanted to participate, you draw, and then you have 2 days to come and eat your tarantula thing.
Otherwise, it's what?
Then they get another person to come and eat it. But it's a beef burger topped with Gruyere cheese, oven-roasted tarantula, and spicy chili sauce.
Did you see the picture of that thing?
I did.
It's so disgusting.
But I'm going to tell you, this is, again, how they're imprinting your children. He says there's no age limit, so it's really for an adventurous kid that likes to try new things, like kids that are eating spiders or ants already.
Or butt plumping.
But the point being is, kids are not eating spiders and ants already. What kid is already eating spiders and ants?
If I found a spider in my hamburger, I would return it.
I would scream and throw it away.
No, I'd say, I want my money back.
No, I wouldn't do that. I would throw it away and scream if I found that in there. And no child, I don't know anybody who's ever said to me, you know what, I have a problem with my children eating bugs and spiders or ants. My child, whenever they see a spider ant, they eat it. I've never ever heard that. So it's not like your kids are already eating spiders and ants. So they are imprinting your children with so many things that are bizarro, and you need to wake up.
And we're sending missiles to Syria.
And calling them that they have problems. So look in your own backyard.
My goodness.
Don't participate in these things. What is wrong with these pictures is right. Mm-hmm. So, true reality of sexuality, 13Q. Please, you are so mind controlled out there. You are so programmed, you don't even know it. You are programmed to think you're out of the box. Now, some of the comments that come to us that say, oh, for enlightened people, I'm going to tell you, we don't call ourselves enlightened. That's a new age term. Mm-hmm. If you want to put that on us, that's your stuff, not ours.
That's also an Asian term. You are very enlightened.
Yeah, I'm just telling you, though, that you think you're out of the box and you're not. Or they throw stones because I said vegans and vegetarianism, these are ways to weaken you and control you.
Listen to me. One of my friends who died this past week was a vegetarian, and she would not eat anything for a long time, and she just wasted away and died.
Yeah, and that's what happens.
She just died from not eating food.
You will peak for a certain amount of time because, first of all, you're going to detox. Then once you detox, your body's going to start using its own what would you call it? Materials.
Yes.
It kind of
like the body will self-consume.
Yes, eat itself, and then pretty soon you will collapse and die. And so you could feel really great in this moment, but give yourself some time. And every single vegetarian that we've ever known or worked with,
not well.
No, and they will go downhill.
And their minds are just not there.
No, you cannot be grounded into your body. It is a program to control you. So you really need to read our books. You need to join our membership. You need to know what's going on. Stuart Says is a great little introductory book. Blue Blood, I told you about. True World History. Who really controls and operates the world? Healing. You need to do some healing work on yourself so nobody can control your mind. You've got to control your own mind. Hyperspace Helper, basic deprogramming information, as well as how to release your past so you understand the boxes you're actually in, even though you don't think you are. Hyperspace Plus, healing archetypes and symbols, decoding your life as universal law, basic things that can help you get control of yourself and your life.
You get so excited about these things.
I loved our books because these are the things, these are what we do. You can see how wonderful we are, right?
Yeah.
Affirmations for self-change. This one you can open up any place, pick a page. It will help you get through your day. Because I'm doing a blog right now on our membership about self-isolation or isolation programming. Mm-hmm. What it is, how to recognize it, the fact that you even think you're there, that's an illusion. You're never isolated. You're always connected.
You can't be isolated.
No. You know, these people want to do soul retrieval and soul finding.
Your soul can't be away from you.
Exactly. Programming. So get out of your programming.
Seriously.
White Owl Legends, fantastic book about the archetypal story of creation. our next adventure.
Well, so actually,
Yes.
my next adventure is going to be the second episode of Hyper Truths, and I was told by the producer just yesterday
Yes.
that the first episode is almost ready to be broadcast to the public.
Oh, fantastic.
But we're all going to start, we're filming the second one.
Okay.
That's this month. Then May, we have, at the end of May, our live Istanbul television show, you and I, with the host, Farah Yortuzu. And then we will do a seminar in Istanbul. And then we go to Italy.
Right. I have
for
one
the-
space left on our trip. I've had several calls. Nobody's committed yet, but we've had
Some of
several
them should be
calls.
committed. I mean,
So if you're interested in the Italy trip, walking the path
right.
of the ancient walled ancients.
and then after that, immediately we have that Switzerland tour, which to my ancestral homeland of Thun,
Twin.
Switzerland, before we became communist Russians.
Well, you still are.
Kind of am. Oh, just a little hint. Based on my family history.
No, Stuart, don't tell these
Yes,
things.
they
No.
told me to. They told me to.
They said?
There will be a product coming out based on my family history. I'm not telling you what it is. I'm not going to tell you when, but it's soon. Now, July is our son Zachary getting married. Congratulations to him and his fiancée. August, I'm going to just say this could be a launch of a secret project at that time.
I don't think you told me.
I know, that's because it's secret. Then in September,
We have our September class, which we're going to be speaking about Kabbalah mysticism.
yeah, but I want to say the words because I like saying
All right.
angelology, demonology, and a Jerusalem secret, which I can't tell you what it is, but I've taught you about it already, and it's quite amazing. I don't even know how I'm going to teach everything in the week. It's not. It's I need like a month.
You're going to talk about the Apocrypha, the Pseudepigrapha.
All of that,
And more.
Kuiper Belt information, which is connected to something else in the angelology and demonology sequences. It's incredible. You will learn how to control all existence.
Well, first of all, they have to learn to control their own mind.
Well, that's part of it too. Then October, right now, tentatively, with my SMOC organization and the Templars, I have an investiture in Tampa. That's tentative. Then November, December, well, there could be new books. There could be a December surprise. We don't know.
Another one you haven't told me about?
No, you know about these things. It's just I'm just filling in the spaces here. And then January, we have the intensive. Right? We look at me like that's not a surprise.
No, but you're looking at me like I'm supposed to say something. You say something.
Because you always talk about it.
You talk about it.
No, you talk about
You
it.
talk about it.
There's people already signing up for January.
And September. So we have already people coming. So if you're
And who
planning,
knows what the world will be like by then.
and what information we will have uncovered by then, because we always give you the latest, greatest, and we are the only people in the entire world that we know of doing this type of work in this way. Oh, I forgot to tell them about my little fluff sword. I got 3 of those that came out on archetypes, chakras, auras, and the last one in the series is due out the end of May, and that will be on protection techniques.
Oh, okay.
So, and then
Would
this
that be that
series,
little fluffs in it?
the series will be complete. I'm working on that for a lot of years.
All right.
Okay,
All right. Well,
that's what I know.
If you're in the northern hemisphere, stay warm. If you're in the southern hemisphere, stay cool. And if you're at the equator, I don't really give a damn.
And thank you very much for all your comments and for sharing and liking our YouTube channel. We appreciate all the nice things you say.
Oh!
What?
I know.
What?
Speaking of the equator,
What?
my first DVD series has just been produced in Spanish in Ecuador.
Yeah, so hopefully we'll have that available to you as well soon.
Right.
But anyway, I was going to say thank you again for commenting and sharing, liking our Facebook pages. And that's one thing I should say we found in Stewart's.
Oh, yeah, wow.
I don't know what happens to
From
Facebook. They changed
2010.
it. No.
Back when?
Back 2008 even.
Oh, my.
From the beginning and filter
Messages.
requests. Yeah, so
we didn't know we had them.
So we work together. We work through them to get most people either answered or.
Thank you, Facebook. You once again are showing how wonderful you are.
But anyway, so we apologize to those of you who we never answered. We do our best to answer everybody as best as we can. But you can always go to our website, expansions.com, contact customer support at expansions.com. If you really want to get a hold of us, you'll find us, right?
Yes, and sometimes Janet wants to get a hold of me and she cannot find me.
Yeah, right.
Because
You
it's part of
escape.
the secret thing.
All right.
Anyway, we'll see you hopefully next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.